Hey. Happy Truthful Tuesday, everybody. This is your girl, Dr. Nay. Welcome to another evening of the Truthfully Speaking podcast. And I am your host, Dr. Nay. And I just want to welcome you to the Dr. Nay, Truthfully Speaking with Dr. Nay podcast, where I choose to inspire everyday people, enlightening them with life-changing information, empowering them to live in truth. So, in the words of your girl, Nova Bordelon from the very popular OWN TV show, Queen Sugar, Speaking Truths Star Conversation. So, thanks for joining us tonight as we get ready to have some very necessary conversations, creating some very necessary change. Let's speak truth. All right. So thank you for being here tonight. I know we have a few people that will be joining us in a minute. I am super excited about tonight's show. Just to give you all a little bit of information about tonight's show. Tonight's show is inspired by a group of phenomenal women. None of them are friends. None of them have existing relationships. But each of us refer to one another as co-mama. In our own way, we have developed this, what we call co-mama relationship, hence the shirt. Shout out to Another Luna Creations for developing these shirts for us. But we've developed what we call a co-mama relationship. And essentially, co-mama is co-parenting at its finest. It does not mean that all of our relationships have been perfect. It does not mean that we are experts and authoritarians on the topic of co-parenting. What it does mean is that we figured a way out to make these relationships work. So these are women that I have had the pleasure of getting to know over the last 10, 15 years plus, probably longer than that for some, either through, marriages, former marriages, through best friends of children's relationships. So it's going to be a fun conversation, very well-rounded group of individuals. And so I just want to share with you guys a little bit about that information. I want to give you a few statistics on co-parenting, on divorce rate. So we'll be dropping some nuggets throughout the show tonight. So get your pen and pad ready. Ladies, if you are here by yourself, get your boo, because it's going to be something for everybody. We're going to be dropping some knowledge. We're going to be dropping some nuggets. And we want people to walk away feeling more healthy, feeling more whole in their ability to be able to develop and maintain these co-parenting relationships, specifically as it relates to being a co-mama. So without further ado, some of the topics and the notes that I'll share, and I'll be dropping some of these into the chat or into across the banners throughout the show tonight. But without further ado, I just want to talk a little bit about, again, what it means to be a co-mama or co-parenting. These are women that, again, we have shared relationships through marriages, through former marriages, through friendships of our children. And they have not always been easy. They've not always been perfect. But I think what it's like a marriage, essentially, right? What makes it work is the decision to make it work on behalf of the children, keeping the children at the forefront. And I think that's what's most important and what's helped these relationships be able to sustain themselves over the years. My women are all, have very different tendencies. They're all very different in terms of their comfortability levels with being able to share publicly. Y'all know me. I'm live. I'll go live. God speaks to me very differently. And so God has charged me with being a little bit more transparent than the average person. And so I've had to learn and be okay with that because I do believe that there will be healing and deliverance through sharing my testimony, sharing my conversations with other people. And so that's my point of view. But a few statistics about co-parenting, step relationships, blended families. Over 65% of remarriages involve children from a prior marriage on at least one of the side. That creates what we call a blended family. It's important to know that out of every three Americans, 1 out of every 3 Americans is either a step parent, a stepchild, or has some form of a blended family relationship. I didn't know through my research, something that I found out is that stepdads are more common than stepmoms. You learn something new every day. And by the age of 15, 3 out of every 10 U.S. kids will have experienced at least 2 mother partnerships. And so I think that's a good segue into our topic tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guests tonight. I am introducing them in alphabetical order, so it's not like I have favorites because I love them all. So tonight I'm going to be bringing to the screen, our first guest is Miss Trina Hankerson. She is the owner of K's Fostering and Learning Space. Hey, Trina, welcome to the show. You can unmute yourself. And I'm also
Hey,
going to
Nay.
thank you for being here tonight in record.
Thank you.
Next up, I'm going to bring Mrs. Nikki Lagrone. She is a social worker. She's an educator, and she is what I call a professional boy mom. She has 4 boys, and she running here and there, baseball, football, camp. She do it all. So she's a professional as far as I'm concerned. Hey, Nikki.
Hey,
Welcome to
boy
the
girl.
show. Yes, professional boy mom.
I
And
wouldn't know
last
what
but
to do with the
certainly,
girl.
oh, see, look at you. You got to comb some hair. See that? And last but not least, we're going to bring on Miss Danisha Dee Norman. And Dee is an entrepreneur. She's also a breast cancer survivor and one of my favorite co-mamas as well. So, hey, Dee, welcome to the show.
Hey, ladies. Hey, ladies.
Hey, so you all should know, again, this is their first time all coming together as a group. We did have some general conversations and text messaging threads, but like most of my shows, I try to have very authentic and transparent shows. I try to not pre-script things. I try to keep it very easy flowing and free flowing. So, they don't have a list of questions that we've decided. We have some talking points and things that we'll go through this evening, but for real, y'all, we're gonna rap about it. We're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna let the truth be spoken tonight here based upon these women's perspectives. So Nia is saying, hey, y'all.
Hey, Nia.
Hey. So if you all don't mind, feel free to help me monitor the chat. So if there's something that someone drops in the chat that you want to make sure that we point out, feel free to, let us know there's a topic. If you're watching and you have questions about our experiences, or if there's something that you want to maybe bring up that you'd like for us to speak to, we will definitely do our best to do it. So feel free to, again, drop it in the chat and we'll get to it. If we don't get to it during the show, please be aware that at the very end of the show, we will at the very end of the show, I'll create space so that we are able to talk about that. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to get to, exactly what co-mama is and co-parenting is, but I'm going to do it from the lens of you ladies, right? So I'm going to ask each of you, and if you can do me a favor, if you can mute yourself if you're not talking. Yeah, well, I guess, Dee, you're the last one to get unmuted, so I'll start with you. You're the last one to get introduced, so you'll be the first one to tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I am a licensed insurance broker. I am on a crusade to teach our youth, to teach our generation how to create generational wealth by buying term insurance and investing the difference. So we have to get our affairs in order. I mean, of course, I'm a breast cancer survivor. That was awakening. We have to get our affairs in order before you're faced with challenges. So I'm also co-owner of DDT Enterprises. It's a logistic company. I'm excited. That's our new baby. I'm excited about it. And I am co-mama to Miss Nia Patterson.
Yay!
So they shine and I co-mamas.
Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for being here. We'll go to Trina next.
Hey, you guys. My name is Katrina Hankerson Johnson. I'm one of the other co-mamas in this crew. I am a certified teacher of 14 years, teaching predominantly in Head Start and preschool for all programs. Just recently opened a business called K's Fostering and Learning Space, where we offer one-on-one fostering sessions for children entering kindergarten and first grade. So that's a bit about me. So awesome. I'm excited for the conversation tonight, because me and Nate, we always have very interesting conversations.
We do. Do you want to share how you are related to this group?
Oh, yes, because I've actually received a few phone calls like, oh, so you a co-mama? We didn't know that you were co-mama. What does that mean? Mm-hmm. So Nia and Brianna, my daughter, they've been friends, best friends for about 4 years now. Mm-hmm. They've had a previous relationship, going to different events together, or just being around each other socially here and there. But their friendship really blossomed once they got in high school, and they've been joined at the hip since then.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for sharing. And Nikki.
All right, had to unmute. Hi, everybody. I'm Nikki Lagrone. I am a higher education administrator, but I'm a social worker at heart. Before transitioning to higher ed about 12 years ago, I spent a good majority of my early career as a social worker. And so that is a ministry, right? So it never leaves you. So although my profession is education right now, social work is very much a part of who I am. I'm part of this group because Nashawn became my co-mama as the stepmother to my boys. And so that, was several years ago, 10 plus years ago. And that's actually how I became introduced to the term. She was the first co-mama that I've actually had the pleasure of working with. And I do say work, not professionally, but mothering is a full-time job. So
absolutely.
Yep. And as we mentioned earlier, I'm a mom of all boys. So
yeah,
that's another ministry, but that's
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, thank you, ladies. Well, as I said in the beginning of my introduction, right? I think, I heard this quote on Queen Sugar probably about maybe 3 years ago. And, if you watch the show, you know who Nova is. She's the dark-skinned sister with the locks. She's the writer. She's the author, but she also kind of sometimes finds herself in conflict with members of the family. But one of the things that she said that was very, very profound to me one time was that speaking truth start conversations, right? And it's an interesting concept because not everybody wants to speak truthfully, right? I wrote a book, Truthfully Speaking, and I had to be very frank about some things in that book, right? But that started a lot of conversations that created a lot of courage for individuals to share their own truths, right? I got a lot of feedback about people realizing, wow, I'm glad I'm not the only one, or man, I thought I was alone in this, or I didn't know anybody else felt that way or thought that way. And so for me, I think it's very important that as people, particularly Black folk, and not just Black folk, but Black women, because a lot of times we're taught to suppress our feelings, we're taught to suppress our emotions, we're taught to put everybody else in front of us, the family, the kids, the husband, the wife, the boo, the job, the church, the ministry, all of those things go in front of us. And then we take a seat if there's any room left, right? And most times there's not enough room left over. And so I'm very excited that you ladies have decided to join us. One of the things I wanted to start with was an excerpt from the book where I actually talked about this term, not necessarily the term co-mama, but the concept of how we tend to struggle with co-parenting sometimes as it relates to other women. So I'll just share a bit about it. And it's related to my mother in a relationship that I had with another woman. But I also, when Nia developed Dee Dee as a stepmother, I had a checkmate moment where I understood everything that my mother was feeling. It was when my daughter decided to start calling Dee Dee mommy. And I was like, ooh, I thought I was the only one. I felt like she had cheated on me in relationship. And it was, and I'll read the excerpt and we'll talk a little bit about it and we'll begin to explore what does that term mean for you? Because again, for each of us, we're co-mamas because of our individual relationships. And like Trina mentioned, she got a phone call like, are you a co-mama now? What? And so she had to qualify what that means from her lens. And so we each bring a different lens to this conversation. So I just want to make sure that we're able to share that. So I'll start. At the age of 15, my play aunt began inviting me to church. Growing up, I attended churches off and on with my mom, but we never had a membership at a church. After visiting my aunt's church for a while, I felt led to take up membership. Well, to be honest, I thought I was just giving my life to Christ, and I had no idea that the church thought I was trying to join as a member. Regardless, I felt the Lord speaking to me, and not only did I have a lot to gain from the congregation, I also felt that I had a lot to offer their teen ministry. I especially enjoyed going to their Sunday school for teens and the friendships I was making. Although my mother never spoke about it, both my aunt and I could sense that she was becoming jealous of our relationship. In other words, my mom was tripping over my relationship with my auntie and with me attending church. Looking back, especially as a parent now, I can see my mother's position. I realized it was more about another woman adding value to the young woman I was becoming. For my other mama bears out there, you all know how we do. We're super protective of our babies, but more specifically, our baby girls. Depending on where you are in your life, there's something about when they look up to other women. Sometimes it feels like it's somehow an indictment on the woman or mother we are to them. It's also as if we are somehow missing the mark, like we aren't enough. You know, that feeling that there is no other woman on this planet who can teach our daughter how to become the woman they are meant to be. Truth be told, it's nothing more than our very own pride. We want the right to be able to say, I did that, without anyone else being able to take credit for it, to take partial credit for it. For my sisters who may not have children, or sisters who don't have daughters, I hope this helps you understand your relationship with your own mothers if you've ever experienced this. I like to refer to this as the mother, other, mentor factor, the mom factor. The mom factor is simply a mother struggling with the relationship that her daughter has with another woman. The other woman can be a mentor, a stepmother, a godmother, a auntie, teacher, coach, friend of the family, or basically any other woman other than mama, who has a profound impact on her baby girl's life in any kind of way, period. And I think I wrote this 3 years ago before they was even saying period, poo, but whatever. So let's unmic, ladies, and let's talk a little bit. Let's hash that out, because I think that, you know, this could apply whether you have girls or even like Nikki, in your case, you have boys. So ladies, tell me a little bit about what the term co-mama means for you. There you go. Anybody can go first. Yeah.
All right, I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
Is my audio okay? Because I hear a little.
Yep, you're fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay. As you define, co-mama to me is part of that village, right? There's so many people as part of that village, the teachers, the coaches, but co-mama is that other mothering presence, right? Someone who will stand in the gap when moms aren't present. Dads are great, you know, other role models are great, but there's nothing like a mother. So for me, a co-mama is someone who would, you know, discipline my child if, you know, or hey, you're supposed to be doing that, you know, someone who's gonna love them. It's cold, where's your jacket? You know, all of those things, that the nurturing aspect to me is what a co-mama is. Someone, for me, Nayshawn, and I'm just gonna personally, there from the moment I met you, there was a warmth and there was a spirit, and I was just instantly comfortable. But it doesn't always come that naturally. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so I can, on the fortunate side of things, that when we first interacted, that relationship was it was easy for me. I'm like, okay, she got some sense. I'm just gonna be truthfully speaking, right? I say. I gotta worry about how she's gonna treat my boys, you know. So that to me is that nurturing figure, that trust factor.
Thank you. And ladies, I'm going to ask you, we're getting a little bit of feedback. So if you're not speaking, just mute your mic so we can minimize the background noise. It's a little challenge when we have more than one person. So next up, who else wants to share? Like, what does that term co-mama mean to you? Like, what's your lens?
I'll go next.
Okay.
And piggybacking off of what Nikki said, to me, it's just that additional covering, that village. You know, I feel like in today's society, like our children, they don't really have a village the way that we might have had a village, or the way that our parents might have had a village. So I feel like any additional support that I can receive from another co-mama is appreciated, because it's hard. It's hard being a mom, especially if you're a single mom. But even if you're a married mom, it's really hard to make sure that you're raising your child the way that they should be raised and up to your standards. So, like I said, any additional covering, like that's always a bonus for me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Dee Dee. What's your perspective?
So for me, I believe it was just an opportunity to be a safe haven for Nia, to be a nurturer for her. And I think the number one thing that we often forget as step parents or co-parenting is to develop a relationship. It's important that me and Nayshawn developed a close relationship, because we have to be able to communicate outside of whatever relationship her and the dad had, or whatever relationship she had with the family. It's important that we had to understand, and that we were on one accord when it came to Nia. That it was,
Mm-hmm.
Across the board, that she knew that Nia was loved, but it was other things that we had. Tragedies brought us closer.
Yeah.
But we as women, I had to show her my scars and she showed me her scars, and we were able to come together. So to be a co-mom, I think it's very, very, very important to have a relationship with the woman in the relationship. With the mother. That's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, ladies. That is, man, I couldn't have said it any better. I would have to agree with everything that each one of you have said. And I think I can't ask the question without answering the question myself. And so for me, again, when I think about co-parenting or even being a co-mama, I definitely think that it is definitely the village that you all mentioned. It's definitely about embracing, not just having a good, healthy relationship with the father, because sometimes that's a challenge out the door, right? Especially if the relationship ended in a divorce or just a nasty breakup. But developing a relationship with also the other women, the other mama in your daughter or your son's life is very important. Because as Dee Dee mentioned, you have to be able to communicate even when things may be a challenge between you and the father. You have to be able to be like, look, I put these 3 outfits in there. Because I used to put sticky notes on Nia's outfits when she was real little. Like Saturday she's supposed to wear this. She's supposed to wear this on Sunday to church. And don't, like you have to be able to communicate and send her the notes, because y'all know sometimes fathers half read the notes, and so, but just being able, there were times when I would go to pick Nia up. Nia has always shared time at her father and my home. But there were times I would go and pick her up and say, go get your bag. And then me and Dee Dee standing on the curb for 45 minutes talking. And, now she going to play again. And so, but to me, that was opportunities to bond. Nikki and I would see her at games for the boys, and, Trina and I, school functions for the girls. And so we use those little opportunities, not necessarily just to speak in passing and going on about our day. Because, as women, we're busy, but we use those opportunities to talk to one another, check in with one another. Did so-and-so tell you this? Did he mention this to you? I remember one particular incident. Had a conversation with one of our boys, one of Nikki and I's boys, and it was about some shoes for a sporting event. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I got you. We got you. And then something said, talk to Nikki. And when I talked to Nikki, it was a different conversation. I was like, oh, and he wasn't trying to be slick or anything, but he was just like, well, hey, I can get the shoes now. So, but keeping those communication lines open on those very little things, because I can imagine had I just gone out and bought these shoes and Nikki had a completely different conversation with our son about it, then that might have ruffled some feathers, right? Because there was no communication there. So I definitely think that communication has to be open, and it has to be ongoing, and it has to be both ways. It has to be two-sided. So I think it was Dee Dee that mentioned we have to show one another our scars. And I think that's very important as well. I want to ask you ladies, what's been the most either rewarding and or challenging thing about co-parenting? You can answer in any order. Somebody's muted.
I couldn't unmute.
I'll jump in.
Okay.
This is so I didn't disclose this at first. I said this in my introduction, but one of my sons is my bonus baby. Okay. And so his mom and I've tried to have a co-parenting or co-mama relationship with her. We've made some strides over the years, but it's been a challenge. It's truly, truly been a challenge. And I think when two parents, and I know I'm watching the chat on this one, because a lot of people who look at this co-mama, we got it good, y'all. We are doing amazing, right? In this little bubble or pod that we have right now. But there are some real struggles with co-mama relationships. And so I'm speaking of my challenges with my bonus son's mom. The relationship with her and my husband is not good. Historically, just not good. And so when we got together, he was a small boy, right? And so, I'm like, tried to make her feel comfortable. I'm a mom, I got boys, I'm gonna make sure, he's taken care of. You don't have the long distance type of thing, and just out of full disclosure, without giving too much.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the picture and I wasn't a product of them not working. And I'll just say that, but I was still treated as such. I was still that that wall that, you know, that kind of kept that relationship from progressing. But so I said all that to say, we still communicate, or I try to communicate. It's sometimes one-sided. But I think that we have made some progress, and we just have to keep trying. So if you are in a situation, again, I'm no expert, I'm just speaking from experience. If you are in a position where the other co-mama or co-parent is not open, they're not as receptive, they don't call me, you know, or whatever. Just I've learned to stand down and fall back when it and just stay in my lane as necessary. So that has been one of my challenges when you are met with resistance with trying to be a because everybody not about that kumbaya co-mama life. That's just the reality of it.
Gang, gang. We are on little gang. It's okay. The doors of the church are open. Where's the offering basket? But that's real talk, right? That's real talk. It ain't all kumbaya. Nick, Dee Dee, Trina, you guys want to add to that?
Yeah. So I think one of the most challenging things for me was always wanting Nia and Desiree. They were the youngest out the crew. Never wanting them to feel that they were not loved, or that, you know what I mean? Because there was so much, both of the girls were active. So, you know, everybody couldn't go to all of Desiree's stuff. You couldn't always go to Nia's stuff, or it was always something, but these are kids, so they don't know and they don't understand. So it's always, for me, I always had this, am I loving on Nia enough? You know, I never wanted her to feel slighted. And then you never want Desiree to feel slighted because Nia's over for the weekend. So it's like you gotta kind of, you know, sway. And then I would have to say the most rewarding is to see how these young ladies turned out. We have some amazing daughters. And Katrina, I just want you to know we love Miss Bree. Bree is one of ours too. But I'm just saying that it's just so important that sometimes we'll beat ourselves up as parents thinking that we're not doing enough, but just do the best that you can and remain prayerful again, and always let the kids know what's going on. You know, sometimes this is adult conversation, you don't need to be, but sometimes you do have to have those tough conversations so the kids know that just because we're not step, you are our sisters, and this is how it is, and you're loved, and this is more of us to love. That's all, you know. But that was always one thing that kind of was the struggle for me with the girls.
Good. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Trina.
Yeah. So I would say, I think that a challenge would be, honestly, I think I really haven't had any challenges within our co-mama circle. Nashawn, what do you think? I don't think we've really had it.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah.
But I do understand everything that you all, the other ladies were saying, but I think one challenge could definitely be just your sense of security as their mom, you know, like making sure that you're entrusting this other woman to make decisions for your child, you know, and just kind of putting your personal biases to the side. Like you guys have a dynamic, a unique experience. It's a little bit different from my experience with me and Nashawn, but I do think just making sure that you have a certain level of trust when you're trusting other women to make decisions for your children when you're not in their presence, whether that's spiritually, definitely making sure that you're on the same page with that, and just being open to learning new things when it comes to other women who have a hand in rearing our children. So reward for me would definitely be celebrating those different milestones, graduations, birthdays, even like the small things, you know, getting a new job, you know, going out here. Like I think Brianna and Nia, they have like a something Brianna was telling me, they have like a best friend dates that they're doing.
Yeah, like their little bucket list of things.
Yeah, the little bucket list of best friend dates. So when she was telling me, I'm like, that is just so cute. I wish I would have done something like that when I was your age. She's like, oh yeah, so we're gonna do this and this. And she read off maybe a list of like 25 different things. And I'm just like, wow, that is so mature of you guys. So just to see them fostering their relationship as young women, and you know, they're in college and they're having all of these different young women experiences that they're able to share with each other and grow with each other and give each other advice. Like, that's the most rewarding thing, because as you all know, Brianna's an only child and I'm an only child and her dad's an only child. So I know how it is to be selfish or may only have those cousins, you know, who are like brothers or sisters or those best friends. So I feel like I struggled with that, with her being an only child, and she's expressed like, oh, you should have another child. You should have had another child, but I didn't really want another child. So I'm like, I'm glad that she does have this, you know, she does have this relationship to kind of help her. That's, you know, it's her best friend, but it's like a sister. So
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Lays. I agree. Like when Nia comes home from school, I don't even have to ask. I just get the message, Bree coming over. Bree gonna spend the night. Bree, you know, and I'm grateful that there's trust between, you know, Brianna's parents and myself that allows us to be like, okay, you know, not have to ask any questions. You know, earlier on in our relationships, Trina and I would text, did you know the girls were talking about doing, or, you know, is it okay with you if, and nowadays it's just like, so I hear Nia coming over there, or I hear Bree coming over here. And so I'm grateful that over the years we've built that trust, especially as they're older. Yeah, you know, especially as they're older, as they are becoming young women, even, you know, and being able to trust another adult, another woman, to be able to have some very intimate conversations with your child and being able to impart. There was a point for me that I began to realize, you know what? You know, because here's the reality, right? I think sometimes, you know, we were talking about, we have this great dynamic here, each of us in our own individual relationships as co-mamas, but not every relationship is like that, right? Like for me, it's easy to love Nikki. It's easy to love Dee Dee. It's easy to love Trina because y'all dope. Y'all dope, you know, you're like-minded, you know, you're just like me in a lot of different ways in terms of what your values are, in terms of child rearing and just, you know, your walks in life in general. But the reality is some people have some trifling parents, right? Sometimes the kids come to the house and the other home is not, you know, as ideal as you would like it to be. And it's a challenge to develop that co-parenting relationship with the other parent. And so in our case, you know, I'm grateful, but the reality is it ain't all, you know, sweet like everybody, you know, for everybody like it is for us. And so for me, just being able to be trusted and feel trusted was important to me, to have these relationships with these other women. So we have a conversation in the chat I'd love to put out. Akila asks, and this is Nia's godmother, so she's another co-mama of mine. But she asks, how did you all prepare your children to meet and or engage with their co-moms? And I'll let one of you ladies take that. And I guess I'll start. I don't know if I did the preparing. Like, I didn't do the introduction. I think Nia's father did the introduction. He never was one to have a bunch of different women around Nia. So I had to trust that when he was at a place that he was ready to introduce Nia to another woman, that she was solid and that they were solid. This wasn't somebody he was going to be with for 2-3 months, you know, because, you know, it was tough. She would come home, her hair be combed different. I'd be like, oh, your hair got messed up. Like, what? Oh, it's cute though. Okay. You know, it was, I had to, I'm for real, I'm being transparent, right? We're speaking truthfully. But, you know, you got another woman combing your baby hair. You got another woman going out buying your baby matching outfits to her kids and, you know, all these other things. And it's like, okay, you know, and you begin to feel like you're losing your place in your child's life. But the reality of it is, when my daughter was at her house, she was her mama. When her boy, Nikki's boys, are at my house, I'm their mama, you know, like it or love it. But it was not a hard thing to do, because it's not like I was sending them back home to some type of trifling environment. But here's the thing. The other challenge with that is it began to be challenging to find your place, because you're not dealing with somebody that's trifling. You're dealing with a whole woman. She a baddie just like you are, you know, physically, spiritually, mentally. She on top of it. Her boys are in line. Her daughter's in line, whatever it is. And so it's a little easier to step into that role and look like the good stepmom or the good bonus mom when you look like a savior, right? But when they coming from dope and then they come into dope, it's like, man, and it's not that it's a competition, but you're just trying to find your way, find your space in those children's lives. And so that was a challenge for me. So anybody else felt like they maybe did the introduction or kind of facilitating the relationship with the co-mama, Nikki?
I was just going to piggyback off of what you said. I didn't prepare my boys, so to speak. When my ex told me, hey, I'm seeing a young lady, we're getting serious. I'm like, okay, even though things didn't work out with he and I trusted his judgment because he was a good father. And like you said, I knew that once he got to a point in a relationship with a woman, that he wasn't just going to introduce my children to someone all willy-nilly. I was actually doubling back because as Trina was speaking about the rewards of it, something else came to mind for me. And I think we've had this previous conversation, Nashawn, is that when we have children in, for lack of better words, out of broken relationships, failed marriages, failed relationships, it's not ideal situation. Nobody has a child with someone and say, oh, we're going to break up now. Oh, we're going to divorce now. But being able to have quality and, just good relationships in spite of having a relationship with my ex-husband's, new wife or so forth is a reward in and of itself, because we are showing these children that in spite of our mistakes or our, whatever you want to label them, we're still showing them how to effectively manage relationships, how to communicate with someone, who's now a co-mama to them, So that's a reward for me too, just being able to make something, turn a negative into a positive.
Yeah, I say thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so we're gonna move on. So Akila, I hope that answered your question. But the other thing, I think another piece that we can tag on to that in terms of how do you teach your children to engage with the other co-parents, I think teach them how you want to be respected, how you want to be talked to. Like the standard that you set in your home should be very similar to the standard that they have in their home. And I think for us, it worked out that way. It doesn't work out that way for everyone else. I knew what Dee Dee played and what she didn't play, because we took the time to get to know one another. I took the time to know if Dee Dee said lights out at 10 o'clock, all y'all better have the lights out at 10 o'clock. And that includes, when you at her house, so understanding that my rules don't necessarily shift to her rules. I can't run her house from my house just because you're there. You know what I mean? We can have an understanding, Dee Dee and I can have an understanding about what's going to take place while you're there, but I can't run a house from my house no more than Nikki could run my house from her house. And so I think having an understanding and a conversation as co-mamas was very, very key in being able to set the tone for the level of engagement. I think the reward and the benefit and something that helps to facilitate a healthy conversation for us was the fact that our children saw us interact. Right? They didn't hear us talking about each other, rolling our eyes, avoiding one another. They saw us loving on one another, whether the father was around or not. They saw us being a support to one another. They saw us being able to sit next to each other in the football stands or at the baseball field or, at the hospital supporting the other one going through a major life transition, like whatever it was, they saw that level of support. And even if it was just because I understand that you are important to my child, so I'm going to bring my child to support you. I remember at a point, Dee Dee's oldest daughter was going after prom. I didn't have a real relationship with her oldest daughter. I knew who she was, but it's important to Nia. So when I get off work, we going out there, we going to watch this baby off on prom, and I'm gonna slide some money in her little purse just like every other adult in that room. So those things are important to me, that the children see us interacting and behaving like family. So then they begin to embrace family more. I know, Trina, you have a few more minutes before you have to get off. Do you have anything you want to add?
I do. And it's funny that you said that, Nate, because right before you said that, I just wrote on my little sticky notes, setting your standard of how you want your child to be treated. And you came right on in. So I guess we had like a little vibe right there. But you're absolutely right. I think, the way that our children see us and view us, our individual relationships as women, we have a mutual level of respect out the door. So like you said, there are a lot of other relationships. They don't have that respect coming into the door, like Nikki and Danisha stated. But I'm so grateful and I'm so appreciative that we've been friends a long time before Bree. Brianna and Nia have been friends, but I appreciate the closeness that we've had and the closeness that the way that we've grown together just through our girls. You know, we were friends beforehand, but I do feel like their relationship has brought me and you closer.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that. So
yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's real. Anybody else want to add to that? Nikki, Dee Dee? Felicia said, this is grown woman's conversation. Love it. That's my cousin, Felicia. So she knows a bit about co-momming as well. So absolutely. So ladies, I'm going to ask you all a question. Because, you know, I don't like pulling people into my stuff, but if this were, because I do, you know, one of the reasons and something that I mentioned in one of our first conversations about this was that, you know, it's something that God dropped on my heart. So I believe when God puts something on your heart, you have to be obedient and move forward with it. I don't believe that everybody's going to like it. I don't believe everybody's going to roll with it. But what has been convicting of me, I was at an event on Sunday and had an opportunity to meet and encounter two women who had been strangers to me prior to that, but understood the conversation that we were getting ready to have and was like, oh, for real? Oh, we having that? Oh, yeah, let's do this, because they themselves were dealing with some challenges in their co-parenting relationships with the other mother and or with their father, the husband or ex-husband or whatever. So I think that it's not by accident that we're having this conversation. And this is not to take away from Father's Day month at all, because we got dope fathers out there. But I think that it's just important to understand that it's to be able to maintain these relationships, be able to continue developing healthy children and whole children. I think it's important that we have to have these very tough conversations. But as we've talked about, we've got this great dynamic, but there's so many other sisters out there that's struggling, trying to find a place in their children's lives. And so for me, I've considered and I'm in prayer about it, but I have considered creating a Facebook community. As you guys can see, the shirt is branded. It is trademarked co-mom, so don't nobody go try to take it. But, you know, I do think that, you know, this is something that should develop into a larger conversation. Of course, you ladies can play whatever role you want to play in it, because y'all the original co-mamas. But I also understand that everybody doesn't, you know, subscribe to all this public conversation. But I just think that there are more women out there that are really struggling in these relationships that could benefit from a co-mama community, like being able to drop these questions in the chat, like, so me and the daddy ain't together no more, and he got this new girlfriend. How should I do? You know, I think being able to just create a safe space like that for being able to ask those questions and answer those questions and not be judged and feel safe and comfortable, because you don't always feel safe in those relationships to be like, I don't like her, or, you know, I don't know, she look a little shifty around the eyes. You know, you don't always feel comfortable being able to say that to your mate or your spouse. And so I think I'm considering that we are definitely looking at, you know, expanding this conversation. I would love to expand this conversation more. So if you ladies were to see a Facebook community or some type of community for co-mamas or co-parenting, specifically from the co-mama lens, what would be some keys that you would love to see in that group? Trina, we got 2 minutes, so if you want to start it, and then that way you can make your exit, feel free.
Can you come back to me?
Absolutely. Yeah, think about it. Yeah. And as we're thinking, my girlfriend Alicia, who has been a co-mama for 7 years, she said blended families are most definitely challenging, if we're being honest. Come on, talk about it, because it ain't all cookies and cream. So, you know, what are some areas that you guys think that we should touch on? If I was to expand this into a Facebook community, if you were a new co-mama coming to the table, what would you like to see in that community?
I would like to see the number one thing, and I mentioned it earlier, is to develop a relationship, not going by what the significant other told you or whatever. Go by your experience, get to know that person, and you all can converse and develop a level of respect and set boundaries.
Yeah.
And I just feel like you would never have thought, like, I consider Nayshawn a sister. You know, when her mom passed, it was no doubt, let me get dressed, I'm going over here, let's get this obituary together, girl, we got to do this, we got to do that. And you take a break. If you know what I'm saying, I'll get near from school, I'll do whatever. Then when I got diagnosed with cancer, she came and laid across my bed, was like, okay, so what we believe in God for? Because I'm going to fast, we're going to be in prayer, and we just going to rock this thing. Mm-hmm. And it meant so much to me. It had nothing to do with the relationship with the dad. It's important that you leave the dad out, leave the grandmothers out, the aunties, uncles, develop your own relationship with the co-mama. it's important.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be like, okay, so
Yeah.
that was your experience with her, but definitely not my experience. So I think that's the number one thing, is developing that relationship and just be open.
Yeah.
Open to it. You know what I mean? Because not all
Yeah.
stepmoms are bad. Not all co-mamas are bad. Everybody not mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Breaking up a bit, D.
That don't mean
Okay, you breaking up a little bit. So there you go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was saying that was my number one thing, is to
Good.
develop the relationship with the moms. I think that's very important.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Nikki?
I would just say having an honest conversation with yourself first, right? Understanding that we have to possess a certain level of maturity and, just be self-aware of who we are, what we can handle. Nashawn, you mentioned earlier, like, who is this woman combing my baby's hair? And, we have to understand that we have to do self-evaluation and check our gut reactions to certain things, because one argument or one clapback can set the tone for a messed up relationship for years to come. You know what I'm saying? So just being able to know who we are. Like, there were times where my bonus son's mom has done some things and I'm like, okay, Nikki, don't say nothing. Just stand back, pray about it, just know who you are in that first.
Yeah.
And then know what you can realistically do. Don't come on, girl, let's go to the mall. Knowing good and hell well, excuse me, that
you're all right.
You don't really like the person. You don't have to be fake. It's not about being fake. It's not about pretending to be peaches and cream, but know who you are and what you want out of that co-mama relationship. You might not want to pick up the phone. Hey girl, what you getting the kids for Christmas? And you might not have that. So knowing what you want, who you are, and how much you can tolerate in a co-mama relationship is gonna help set that tone. And it may grow. It may just start off as, okay, child coming for the summer. Here's the outfits with the Post-it notes on it. Let her know I'm gonna wash everything. I'm gonna try my best to keep all the socks in, but I'm bad at the pack of socks to stand back with him because the boys don't keep up with socks. So so that's my tip. It's just understanding and having a realistic mindset, if you will, of what that relationship looks like.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you, Trina.
So to sum all of that up, because you ladies, that was the bomb. I loved everything that you just said. So I would come behind you guys and say, like the Jasmine Sullivan song, "Pick Up Your Feelings." You really have to get past your feelings, because we emotional beings. We more emotional than anybody on the earth. So especially when it comes to our kids. So just picking up your feelings and working through your feelings, just trying to get past and through whatever that past relationship didn't do for you, whatever it did do for you, and just really realize this is really for the betterment of our children. Period. Like, at the end of the day. And the reality is, being a co-mama, you may not be the best of friends. Like you said, Nikki, it could just be a touch and go. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Or just a text. Hey, how you doing? I'm just checking it. And that's it. And if that's as far as it may go, then that just may be as far as it may go. But as long as you constantly checking yourself and checking your feelings and knowing, okay, we have children that we are in this process together with, then that's my takeaway. So pick up your
Absolutely.
feelings. Get your feelings.
Yes. Check your feelings at the door. I love it. I love it. So we have a couple comments and questions from the chat. Trina, if you need to leave, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. If you would like people to be able to contact you regarding Cade's fostering, feel free to drop it in the chat so that people have your contact information. So Akila says that she is struggling at just the thought of a co-mama. So thank you for this thought-provoking conversation. Ashe. Sheeta says that, I scrolled too fast. Okay. Sheeta says that would be such a blessing for some of these young new women that do not have their own circle of women to support them. So she's speaking about that co-mama community. Alicia gave us a suggestion topic. This is one who has been a co-mama for the last 7 years. And, what do you do when the co-mama has turned into the primary mom after a custody battle? So that's a good question. I don't think any of us have that experience, but that would definitely be a good topic. Is there anyone here that can speak to that? No. So that, but Alicia, that is an awesome topic. So we're going to have to bring you back for that, Mrs. Meeks, because I know you got some expertise in that. Her and her husband have done a phenomenal job of blending their family, baby. When I tell you the way they love on each other kids. So great one. Hey, my baby, Makira. Sheeta also says, with relationships in our community only having a 50% success rate, we have, and to be honest, marriages, not even just within a community, but within America. Sheeta says, we have to rethink family structures, and this should be included in the conversation. Thank you. We will make note of that. I added some notes just defining what these different family dynamics are, like how do we define family, divorced with children, remarried, recoupled, or living together, single mothers, divorced dads, lesbian and gay couples with children from prior relationships. So all of these things are like making up these families, right? There are these blended families, these step families, and, all of these things. And a lot of people are not even deciding to remarry. They're just deciding to cohabitate because of previous experience or preference or whatever. But that doesn't mean that there's not a co-relationship in there, right? There's not a co-parenting or co-mama relationship in there. So we have to, Sheeta, you're absolutely right. We definitely have to reconsider how we define the family structure. Lysandra says, how do you handle the situation when it's more than one co-mama? Sorry, I only got one baby, so I can't speak to that. Any of you?
I'll speak to it because I actually do have more than one co-mama.
Okay.
And I think you just handle them the same way. And this actually piggybacks off of Troy's comment too.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, Nation, I'll repeat.
Sure, please do. Yeah.
Troy says it also depends on the maturity of the man and what he tells the ex and current woman. You have to be honest with both women, especially when kids are involved. Kids pick up on the vibe of both parents and the other woman. Absolutely. Yep. And I couldn't agree with you more. That's definitely a consideration. The father plays a huge role in that dynamic. You will not have two co-mamas that are, able to have a very, a good relationship if the man is stirring up the pot, if he's lying and, so yes, that is a huge consideration. But in my instance, my oldest son's father remarried, and we did not have a good relationship. And in full transparency, I like to consider myself very easy to get along with, very open. I am the epitome of kumbaya. However, his dad was not doing what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And he took up for him. And not saying that, yes, you're supposed to stand in one accord with your husband, but wrong is wrong. And the few conversations that she and I had early on, oh, well, he does this and he does that. He was lying to a child. He was telling her that he was sending me child support. He wasn't, it was a big mess. However, just over the years, and it took a while for she and I to really get an understanding. And unfortunately, it took him to show his true self and, for them to go through challenges in order to see where I was coming from. So to answer your question and not continue to be long-winded, you pretty much manage them the same way. If you have more than one co-mama, just it doesn't change. Just making sure that it's a mutual respect, but definitely the father has a huge role in what that relationship looks like. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely. We have about 5 more minutes. So if you guys, that are out there in Facebook land have any other comments or questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll definitely try to get to them in these next 5 or 6 minutes that we have left. But any parting thoughts that either one of you ladies want to share with us? Crickets.
I'm having a little problem with my little mute, but you know what, Nation, thank you so much for this platform, for this conversation. I believe that this is healthy conversation, and this creates a narrative, a tone for other women, so we can have the dialogue and have the conversation. And as Troy stated, my brother, that is so true. Yeah. No, I love me some Troy. That is so true about the level of maturity of the man. But I also, again, it all stems back to, I think the women control the narrative as well. As we set the tone. Because you can have that conversation. Bedroom talk is something else. When you had a conversation with your husband, like, look, this has got to stop between you and the mama. This is arguing back and forth. We have to create a healthy environment.
Yeah. Dang, it was getting good, Dee Dee. You went out on us. It was about to get real good.
So I just feel like, yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. But however, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. This was great. This was amazing. I enjoyed talking to you, ladies.
Good. Thank you for participating. Nikki, any closing remarks from you?
I would just say, at the end of the day, it's about the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, not that we are less important, but our children are always watching. They are.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when we want to, the goal is to teach them how to have healthy and positive relationships. So if your co-mama relationship is not ideal, work on it. Be patient. Give it time. If the dad is not as mature, just continue to be that bridge and try to communicate, and then know when to back off and just let go of God. Lord, just fix it. Jesus.
Yeah.
We are not always in control. So just do our best for the kids at the end of the day.
That's all you can do. Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Thank you for giving us this platform, Nashawn. I like to share my testimony to bless other people, but I am a little social media shy a little bit. So thank you for using me and stepping me outside of my comfort zone.
Well, thank you for being open to it, both of you ladies, or all of you guys. But this has been phenomenal conversation. Again, I definitely think that I try to touch on topics that real life, everyday people deal with, right? People that conversation that we don't really talk about. And I think that not just in the Black community, but in America in general, this is a conversation that's untouched, right? We're not really talking about the co-mamas. We're not talking about the other moms. So I thank you ladies for being here. Thank you all guests for joining us, for, chiming in the chat. There is one other comment in the chat. Alicia's, oh no, that's an old comment. I'm sorry. Great dialogue, and thanks for sharing your experiences, sisters. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great topic. So again, thank you all for being here. Truthfully Speaking podcast, Truthfully Speaking with Dr. Nay. You can catch me once a month right now. I am in the production phase, or the phase of being working with the producer for the show. So I'm super excited about that. So prayerfully, our July show will have a different format. I'll be all on the different podcast platforms. Y'all, when I started this journey, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know she's supposed to be on Spotify and this and Apple and iTunes and all this other stuff. So I'm super excited. I'm a prime believer. Look, what I don't know, I don't mind paying for, and I don't mind asking for some help. So a sister got some help. And so I'm super excited to be working with a producer of the show. And hopefully next month's format will be brought to you. If not, you can check us out back here. So without further ado, I'm going to wrap us up. Again, take your time, get to know the other parent. These are some of our takeaways. Develop a relationship. Take the time to develop a relationship, whether it's a co-mama or just a co-father, the co-parent. Take that time to develop the relationship with the other parent and determine and set boundaries together, set agreements on how you all will raise those children together, especially when they're spending time at both of your houses. Have honest conversation with yourself first. Have a come to Jesus moment with yourself and check your feelings at the door so that you know what your boundaries are, so you can know, I can't do Thanksgiving dinner with y'all family, or I really like to have the kids for this particular holiday or that particular holiday, so that there's an understanding going forward. And again, get past your feelings, check them at the door, because it's not about you. It's all about these children. And like I said in the beginning, this has not been perfect. All of our relationships did not always start out perfect or super healthy, but with the constant effort and constant working towards it, we've been able to develop and maintain. And again, Dee Dee's ex-husband / Nia's father, they're no longer together, but Dee Dee and I still have a healthy relationship on a regular basis. We call in and fussing at each other. Nikki and I'm no longer with her boy's father, but she and I still have a very healthy relationship. I'm still allowed to show up for those boys and talk to them, and they still call me for Mother's Day. They still call me for my birthday, so we still have these healthy relationships despite the marriages not working out. And so I think that's key. That's a testament